So the 2024 election dust, well, it's barely settled. And already the Democratic Party is grappling with that familiar question. How do we win back the White House?
Uh-huh.
And, the latest chatter, the Whisper campaign, it suggests a rather, well, a backward-looking solution, maybe.
Yeah, this idea seems to be gaining traction.
Forget bold new faces. Apparently, the quote-unquote smart money is on a safe white boy for 2028.
Yeah, Representative Jasmine Crockett mentioned that some donors seem to prefer that profile.
Exactly.
The idea being, a white male centrist candidate is maybe the magic formula after the losses with Hillary Clinton and then Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket.
So the thinking is, find someone who won't ruffle feathers.
That seems to be the core of it. Yeah,
That's
people are floating names, like Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, maybe J.B. Pritzker. Even Pete Buttigieg again, all seen as potentially unthreatening options. The hope, I guess, is they can lure back those crucial swing voters. We're talking Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan.
The old blue wall.
Right. The perception or the theory is that these states they favor a certain kind of candidate, a white male candidate.
It's quite something, isn't it? This idea that the key to unlocking the Rust Belt is a candidate who looks, equally at home in a union hall and maybe a country club. The logic underneath seems to be that all the cultural shifts, the economic anxiety that supposedly pushed voters rightward, that can somehow be, calmed, placated by familiarity.
Yeah, like a familiar face is the antidote to really complex societal problems.
Right.
And what's really interesting here, I think, is the implicit admission. It's like admitting a discomfort with tackling potential voter biases head on.
How so?
Well, the safe candidate is, by definition, seen as less likely to trigger let's face it, the double standards and sometimes outright hostility that candidates from other backgrounds often face. Women, candidates of color.
So it's a strategy based on avoidance.
Pretty much. Avoiding conflict, trying to just glide through the culture wars by picking someone who theoretically doesn't ignite them in the first place.
And stability is that part of it.
Definitely. After years of really intense political turbulence, the image of a calm, moderate white guy, it's possibly seen as like the political version of chamomile tea for those undecideds in the suburbs or the Sun Belt.
Okay, but hang on. Isn't the very idea that Democrats are somehow forced to choose here, that it's either a winning candidate or one who reflects their incredibly diverse base, that feels like a false choice?
It absolutely is a false dichotomy. I mean, history gives us plenty of examples, doesn't it? Democrats who've built really broad coalitions, energized the base, and won.
You mean like a Barack Obama, maybe?
Exactly. And this whole pursuit of the quote-unquote safe option, it seriously risks alienating the actual core of the Democratic Party, which is this incredibly diverse coalition. Voters across race, age, ideology. If you signal, even subtly, that their representation at the very top is like expendable just for perceived electability.
It's dangerous.
It's a huge gamble. It can just breed apathy, depressed turnout among the very people you absolutely need.
And it just looks calculated, doesn't it?
It screams calculation. Voters aren't stupid. They can smell a nomination driven by fear and, donor checkbooks a mile away. That's hardly inspiring stuff.
Right. Where's the passion? Where's the vision in that? The big Democratic wins, the ones we remember, they offered something compelling, right? A real challenge to the status quo.
FDR, JFK, Obama.
Yeah. Not just a gentle nudge towards the middle, trying to win by, offensive neutrality. That sounds less like a winning plan and more like a recipe for lukewarm enthusiasm at best.
And the whole underlying assumption is flawed, too. This idea that electability and the party's core values are somehow opposites?
But they aren't.
I don't think so. Isn't real electability actually rooted in a candidate's ability to lay out a clear vision, to connect with the actual real concerns of working people, whoever they are?
So when a candidate really stands for something meaningful, offers actual solutions.
That's what gets people excited. That's what energizes voters and ultimately wins elections, not just playing it safe.
So the takeaway is ditch the beige candidate strategy. Is that fair?
I think so, yeah. Instead of getting hung up on demographics, maybe the focus needs to be on actual leadership qualities.
Like what?
Who can actually inspire people? Who can unite different groups? Who shows courage?
So whether that person is a Buttigieg or maybe a Gretchen Whitmer or a Shapiro or even someone, say, who excites the progressive wing.
Right. The winning formula should be about the power of their ideas, their ability to connect with voters, not just whether they fit some kind of predefined, safe profile.
Makes sense.
The path forward, it probably involves building those broad coalitions by actually talking about the big issues. Economic justice, the health of democracy itself, affordable health care, security.
Issues that cut across demographics.
Exactly. Candidates who can speak to those concerns authentically, they can bridge divides. They can bring together the base and undecided voters.
And we should be careful about how we read past elections, too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Just blaming Hillary Clinton's loss or Kamala Harris's loss solely on their gender or race, that's way too simplistic.
There were other factors.
Loads of them.
Yeah.
Messaging, media dynamics, structural challenges. You can't just ignore all that.
So ultimately, there's real power in what? Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And in people seeing themselves reflected.
Definitely. When voters see themselves in a candidate, in their message, it's not just a feel-good thing. It's a powerful motivator. It gets people to the polls.
You could call it heart power, maybe?
Yeah, I like that. Heart power. It's a real force.
So this whole safe white boy strategy,
Yeah.
it might look like this simple risk-averse path on the surface.
But it actually shows maybe a lack of imagination. A kind of retreat from the very diversity that is a strength for the Democrats.
Yeah, trying to win by playing it safe, watering down the message to avoid backlash.
It just seems more likely to lead to, well, more disappointment than a big win.
Couldn't agree more. Real electability isn't about fitting into some old, tired mold of who's supposedly acceptable.
No, it's about breaking through, offering that compelling vision for where we should be going.
So winning in 2028. It means embracing diversity, not running from it, sharpening the message, moving forward with real conviction. That's how you capture hearts, minds, and, yeah, the votes.
Well said.
So maybe something for you, the listener, to think about. What kind of leader, what qualities truly inspire you? And what kind of vision do you think is really essential for tackling the challenges we're facing right now? Something to mull over. That's all for today's Dissent Picks. If you believe in standing up for what's right, please check out our collections at dissentpicks.com, featuring thought-provoking t-shirts, mugs, stickers, and more that amplify your voice. Remember, when power corrupts, resistance becomes duty. Stay informed, stand strong, and we'll see you next time.